Hi students, I'm Jeff, and today's reading topic is Heroes and Heroines. Follow along using the link in the box below as I read the article, Everyday Hero, Jeff May. High school student Jeff May managed to tackle a school shooter and save the lives of his fellow students. The ninth graders in Missy Dodd's 7th period study hall were restless that Monday afternoon. March 21st, 2005. It was the last period of the day. All eyes were on the big clock on the front wall of the classroom, just minutes until the final bell. Jeff May sat alone at a table calculating algebra problems. If he cranked through his schoolwork now, he figured, he could meet up with a buddy that afternoon to shoot baskets in his aunt's driveway. May was nearly a full-blooded Ojibwe, like many of the students and teachers at Red Lake Senior High School in northern Minnesota. The 15-year-old didn't mind studying, but he much preferred playing basketball. Suddenly there was frantic pounding on the door. Neva Rogers, one of the teachers, rushed into the classroom breathless. "Somebody's shooting out there," Rogers said. Just a few minutes earlier, a young man in a black trench coat, his hair spiked into thorns, had walked into the building carrying 3 guns. One of the security guards stationed at the main entrance, Derek Brunn, confronted him. Even though the guard was unarmed, the gunman shot him twice, killing him. Then he fired another shot down the hallway, narrowly missing Rogers, a 62-year-old English teacher. Dodds quickly locked the door and snapped off the lights. "Getting back," she told the students. "Hide." May flipped a table up on its side, spilling his math book and papers to the floor as he knelt behind the makeshift bunker. Nearby crouched his best friend, Dwayne Lewis, and another classmate, Alicia White. For months, May had had a crush on White, but he hadn't mustered the courage to ask her out. The classroom was absolutely silent. Suddenly there were shots in the hallway outside, loud booms that sounded like textbooks slammed to the floor. As seconds ticked by, the shots boomed louder, closer. An instant later, the window beside the locked door was shattered by a shotgun blast. A burly figure in a trench coat and combat boots climbed through the 2-foot-wide opening. May recognized Jeff Weiss. Although the two boys both lived on the reservation, they had never spoken. Other students sometimes picked on the troubled boy. For the past few months, Weiss had been tutored at home. He was depressed and being treated for suicidal tendencies. Doctors had prescribed Prozac to try to get him into a better balance, but today Weiss carried a 12-gauge shotgun, a 22 caliber semi-automatic pistol, and a 40 caliber semi-automatic pistol. On his face was a frightening smile. "God save us," said Mrs. Rogers. Weiss looked over at her. He leveled his 40 caliber and fired. The bullet struck her in the head, and she slumped to the floor, dead. He then turned to the students huddled in the back of the room. "Do you guys believe in God?" he asked. "No," answered one boy, John Guy Lamorse. May said nothing. Weiss pointed his gun and opened fire. Boom! May watched his best friend, Dwayne, slump. Boom! Alicia White, May's crush, crumpled. Boom, boom, boom! Chanel Rosebear, Chase Lucier, and Thurleen Stillday lay fatally wounded. The killer aimed his gun at Dodds and squeezed the trigger. Click! It was empty. He reached to reload. As soon as Weiss started shooting, Jeff May thought, somebody's got to stop this guy. At 6'3" and 300 pounds, he realized he was one of the few kids who might have a chance against the gunman, who stood 6 feet tall and weighed about 250. May was a varsity football player, but he was no tough guy. Still, he thought, if I can slow him down, maybe I can save some lives. At least he might buy a little time until police arrived. May figured his best chance was to surprise Weiss, take him down. Glancing around for a weapon, he saw nothing. Then he realized he was still clutching the pencil he'd used to calculate his algebra problems. In one motion, May lunged at the shooter and jabbed the pencil hard into his side, but something deflected the blow. It turned out Weiss was wearing a bulletproof vest, swiped from his police officer grandfather, Darrell Lucier. Earlier that afternoon, Weiss had stopped at Lucier's house, where he shot and killed his grandfather and his grandfather's girlfriend, Michelle Sagana. Then Weiss had grabbed the keys to Lucier's patrol car and drove to school. No one knows what set Weiss off that day, but he was clearly determined to kill as many people as he could. May tried to wrestle him to the ground, but Weiss stubbornly held his own. Then he managed to raise his reloaded pistol and fire right at May's face. May saw a bright flash of light and collapsed hard on the floor. The bullet had entered his right cheek, fractured his jaw, and lodged in his neck, near his vertebrae. Blood spattered Weiss's black boots. The two had grappled for just enough time, witnesses estimate, to spare the lives of the remaining dozen people in the classroom. In total, Weiss spent less than 10 minutes at the high school, but left 8 people dead and another 7 wounded in the deadliest school shooting since Columbine. 4 Red Lake police officers arrived and exchanged gunfire with Weiss in the hallway outside Mrs. Dodds's classroom. One officer shot him 3 times. The troubled boy staggered back into the classroom and fatally shot himself in the head. Speaking for herself and the other survivors, Dodds says Jeff May saved their lives when he jumped at the killer. His brave action did not surprise her. I totally would expect that of him, she says. May was airlifted to Merit Care Hospital, 105 miles away in Fargo, North Dakota. He suffered a stroke that immobilized his left side and required surgery to remove the bullet. For many tense hours, his family members feared they would lose him. He is recovering slowly, with 2 daily hour-long sessions each of physical, occupational, and speech therapy. Still, lying in his hospital bed 2 months after the shooting, May says if he had to relive that day, he would once again abandon the shelter of the overturned table and try to stop the shooter. Why? To make sure so many people don't die, he says. Alright, thanks for watching. Prepare any questions that you have or comments that you have for our lesson. Have a great day.